There are some things I wish I'd been sat down and had explained to me before I left corporate, but I had to learn them the hard way. And so in this video, I'm going to share some of them with you, not to scare you, but in the hopes that you will be prepared so that you don't have to make the mistakes or learn the lessons the way I had to. So let's have a chat. So I left corporate not because I hated my job, but because I wanted freedom. I wanted time freedom, location freedom, and I also had the responsibilities of aging parents, and I wanted to be more present. And so I swapped the corporate commute for bi-coastal living. So I'm between the UK and the Caribbean, and I have that time freedom. I have that location freedom. I'm able to be present for my family, but it isn't always sunshine, blue skies, and cocktails. Days like today, we're experiencing a tropical system, so it is an entire day of rain, and that's how it is sometimes. You will have months where it feels like sunshine and everything's floating and it's going well, and then there will be other months where it feels like you're going through a storm. These are the things that no one really tells you about, that you aren't always prepared for. But if you are making one of the biggest decisions in your life, you have to be prepared for it. It can make you question whether or not you did the right thing. And before we go in, I'm going to say that I wake up every day still believing that I've made the right decision, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it can be a lot of pressure and there can be a lot of stress. So the first lesson is that revenue is not the same as income. And I had to learn this really quickly. And if you already know it, then great. But you can have clients, you can have the invoices that are being sent out, you can be booked, but that might not always reflect in your bank account. So if you've got projects that are delayed, for example, I do have a project that keeps having its date moved back because it's dependent on something else that's happening in the company. I can't see that in my bank account. I also have another client who has moved dates back. Again, I can't see that in my bank account. The corporate mindset doesn't prepare you for that because your salary is paid every month at the same time. But in business, there's an ebb and a flow. So cash flow is very different to income. And your nervous system takes a while to get adjusted to that, because with a corporate salary, you know it's coming. With a cash flow, it's like, when is this invoice going to be paid? And I have to admit, my nervous system hasn't adjusted to that as yet. My nervous system is, where is it? Where is it? Because it's the end of the month. And that doesn't work. I'm beginning to understand that it's normal, but it's taking a long time to adjust. The second lesson is not saving just enough to leave. And this is something that I speak about anyway. You have to have a savings, but you also need to have enough, not just to leave, but enough so that when you're in those months where, it's the ebbs and not the flows, you are not in a space where you are making decisions from fear, because financial pressures will influence your decision making. It will make you take on clients that you might not normally work with because you think, oh, I need the money. Or it will make you lower prices because you think, let me just grab whatever sell. And that's never a good thing. And I've done that at times where I think, oh, maybe I should just lower the price. I can't say that it made me work with a client that I wouldn't have normally worked with, because I've only done that where it's a client that I would work with. But it will make you question your worth, and that's never a good thing. And then you have to go back and look at the testimonials and think about what people have said about your work and think, no, it isn't me. It's just a period where people might not be buying, or, you haven't prepared for this low month, because those things happen. But when you have a sufficient enough buffer, you don't make those kind of decisions from that place of anxiety or fear. And it means that you'll only be saying yes to work that you're truly aligned with. The next lesson is building the income streams before you need them. And I speak about that again because this is something that I experienced. So I had income streams, but I also had one particular income stream that was really going to be something that I was going to rely on in especially the first months of me leaving corporate. And I am 18 months post-corporate, and that income stream has not kicked in, and it has been a headache. Thankfully, there were other income streams, but not having that income stream, I felt it. It should have kicked in about 3 months in. 18 months in, as I said, it isn't there. And so this is why it's important to make sure that your income streams are firm and in and ready to go before you leave. If you are relying on one income stream, that one offer, one service, that one launch, what happens if there's a delay in payment? Will it create a financial crisis? If yes, then no. You need to look at building more income streams. So like I said, I had others, but this was a really important income stream. It hasn't gone in. Thankfully, I had a conversation in the last couple of days, which means that it is going to start moving forward. But if I'd known it was going to take 18 months to get to this point where it's just about to grow legs, I would have looked at something else. And so it really hit home for me the importance of looking at contingencies. It didn't mean that because this income stream wasn't in that, oh, I wasn't going to leave my job. I still would have left. But what I could have done differently was put something else in place so that I wasn't relying on this one, which, like I said, should have taken 3 months, but 18 months in, it is just about to take off. And it's going to take a while before it takes off anyway. So that is really important, creating multiple income streams before you leave, because that happened to me with one income stream. But imagine that was the one income stream that I was depending on. Would have been disaster. The other lesson is something that I understood before I left, but I want to share it anyway, because when I speak to people who are thinking about transitioning or who have transitioned and I'm helping them to put together the business to get it to grow to where they want it, they haven't been prepared for the pressure. And it's the understanding that freedom does not mean that you won't have pressure and stress. Before you leave, you need to weigh up which type of pressure you want. Do you want the pressure that comes with corporate? Because there's pressure there, but there's also pressure when it comes to leaving corporate. Are you ready for that type of pressure? What you need to ask yourself is, which of these pressures aligns to the life that I'm trying to build? For me, it wasn't corporate. And yes, there is pressure that comes with building a business, but that is aligned to the life that I'm trying to build. So that's a question you need to ask yourself. So is there a lot of pressure attached to leaving corporate and starting a business? Yes, but I wake up every day believing that I've made the right decision. And that for me is important. It means that I am living my purpose. It means that I have made a decision that I am willing to work with and continue with, and not take the safer option, which may have been less stress in a way financially and emotionally, but not aligned with my purpose. The reality of my freedom is, yes, I can go to the beach at times, and yes, it's sunshine and blue skies when I'm over in the Caribbean, but there is also uncertainty at times. There's a lot of planning and replanning and evaluating and revising and having to find another way of doing things, but that is the life of being an entrepreneur. So before you hand in your notice, there's a couple of questions you need to ask yourself. Number one, could I survive for 6 months if everything slowed down? Number two, what happens if my biggest client disappears? Number three, do I understand cash flow and not just income? Number four, have I created more than one way to earn? And number five, am I leaving because I'm running from something, or am I moving in alignment towards something that I have prepared? The answers to those questions are really important, and you need to answer truthfully, because if you're answering no to a lot of those questions, it means that you're not ready to leave. Doesn't mean that you have to stay, but it means that you have to do a bit more work to make sure that when you do leave, you are moving towards something that has a firm foundation and not just moving on a whim. Because the hardest thing about leaving corporate is not handing in your resignation, is what happens afterwards. And that's why I talk about being prepared before you leap. And my upcoming book, Before You Quit, looks at the things that you have to think about before you hand in that resignation. Leaving corporate is one of the biggest decisions that you might make in your life, but leaving is not the goal. The goal is about the options that you create for yourself. So there are months when I've questioned leaving. I didn't want to run back, but I thought, what have I done? Have I done it the right way? Especially when the numbers didn't add up the way that I had hoped they would. But they haven't meant failure. It's just meant that I'm running a business and there are a lot of moving parts to be aware of. And those are the things that I need you to be aware of. Don't leave because you're desperate to escape. You only leave when you have prepared yourself with options. If you'd like to find out more about what those options could look like, I'm going to add my playlist about getting your first client and using your skills to create options. So until the next video, bye.